What's up, y'all? This is Rom. Back at you with yet another car video. The elephant in the room during discussions of low fertility rates. The elephant in the room. Because you know what? That's a big deal. That's a big deal, especially in Western culture. You know, Western culture, Asian culture, not in African culture. Something to think about. They're not complaining, right? And you know, you get discussions about like fertility issues in general. You know, some women need some help, and yeah, but that's always been that way though, for real. And you know, blaming, talking about everything else, or you know, yeah, people are talking about money and all of that. But I'm like, I don't really go for all of that. You might have some credence, but you know, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know, right? I don't know, cause I'm gonna tell you the elephant in the room. Women just don't want to have sex with a lot of men out here. That's all to it. Like nobody's making a correlation between a bunch of younger men, what they say 60% below the age of 30 ain't having sex, and the low fertility rate. I don't know why. Or that you get a whole bunch of women only going for a certain amount of men. Like in these spaces, there's a lot of discussion about like the 80-20, or I talk about select and non-select, or you know, they're talking about you know, be talking about, you know, alpha, beta, however you want to say it. No matter how, it's already been documented and studied that women ain't going for most of the men. But then they ain't making a correlation. If women ain't going for a lot of the men are single, don't have kids. What the fuck? Even when you look at the men who are actually having kids in any community, any racial community, whatever, it's not the majority of men. You talking maybe 40% of men, 50% of men, and you know, people break it down, but a lot of men out here are single. They not getting a woman pregnant. Oh, okay. This truck stopping up here. And you tell that bad man ain't got no lights on. Oh, why am I stopping? Go ahead. Why am I stopping? I'm acting like there's a stop sign here too. But anyway, right? You got a lot of there's all this talk about everything else, making money and shit. Which I'm gonna call bullshit on the money issue. I'm gonna call bullshit. Because when I had both of my sons, that was the brokest period of my life. And you got a lot of these poor people having it. And then remember what I said about Europe and Africa. Africa's supposedly poor and having all these kids. Shit. People be trying, especially some racist ass motherfuckers, be trying to talk about they ain't this or that, but they having kids though. And shit. And if you just go in this neighborhood where I live now in the general area, you got young women who probably ain't making that much money, because if I drive one direction, can run into some mansions. Okay, I can see the money there, but if I drive another direction, I can run into some trailer parks. And those white women in those places, in the poor places, be having babies. Whoever be having places. Yeah, I'm going to say the race part too. You got a bunch of poor women having babies in Western culture. So how's it about money? You can have money and shit. I've met some women who are six figures and stuff. I've met a few women, they still have a baby. A lot of them will still have a baby on their own and shit, even if they got to go through artificial insemination. Even if they even got to go through that. Plenty. I met plenty. They wanted that kid, didn't have a man, still had a baby. So if we talking about, because what we really talking about is a low count. A low count in places like Asia and Europe and Africa though. I'm just saying. You know? I wonder what the difference is between Europe and Africa. What y'all think on that? You see, that's something else they never say too. Because let's be real on it. Let's be real. Some of the people complaining the most are right wingers. You know? white nationalists and shit. They complaining the most. Man, I would tell them if they got a problem, they got to figure out a way to get their women to get their legs open for them. I'm just going to be raw. That's why I did this as car rum. I ain't do this on the couch. I stay calm on the couch. It only give you about, 8 minutes or something on the couch. Nah, this is a major issue. It's not talked about enough in mainstream. It ain't talked about. They ain't talked about, like, who's having babies and, like, these women just don't want to fuck certain men. Let's just be real with this shit. Because there's no way, because if you're talking about, like, 60% of men under the age, 63% of men under the age of 30 not being sexless and shit, you see these growing incel communities and shit, well, shit. You gonna get a certain percentage of, if they ain't fucking, they ain't gonna produce any fucking babies. It's just that simple. And you only got a few people who made it. They ain't talking about that angle. They just talked about them not mating and shit. But shit, we gotta be raw with it. How come the women don't want to fuck them? That's the elephant in the room. How come women don't want to fuck a lot of guys out here? Yeah, I'm gonna say fuck. They don't want to have sex with them. They don't want to have their babies. Cause I'm gonna tell you what. Cause let me shout out Dr. T. Hassan Johnson. Let me shout him out because he had shared something. I forgot where he shared it at. It might have been on his IG or something. But he was talking about. He shared a quote from somebody, and they were talking about how men would spend money on women back in the day because women weren't working like that. Shoot, women. There was a point women couldn't even get a credit card without their husband's signature. Men had real control over women. They weren't working. They weren't going to school like that. Shit, they had to deal with a man just for his money. Change is, and people can blame feminism or whatever, but they don't need a man for money now. So what's the real change there is they don't have to settle for a man. Cause I met a lot of older women. And who, like, they just settled for a man. They just settled for a man just because they weren't making the money themselves. They had to deal with the man who was most likely going to take care of them. Oh, shit has changed. Female gaze has changed. They don't have to look at that in a man anymore. Only women looking at that now, just women who just want that man who got like he ain't just have money, but he got an extraordinary amount of money. And you know that, and that's something to talk about because these women want to be all traditional and shit. Making money themselves, probably making more money than the men that they're dealing with. They still want that old shit. But see, here's the problem. If they working, they don't have to deal with that man. That's why I say don't lead with your wallet. These women are fucking the men that they want now. Even if they got to be the side piece for them. Even if they got to be like, even if these women got to be in a harem, knowingly in a harem and shit. They don't have to fuck with that. They got their own money. They free to fuck who they want. They ain't the reason why we got low fertility. Women ain't fucking them. Shit, they ain't fucking them in Japan or Korea. They ain't fucking them in Europe. Still Africa though. I'm just saying. And they try to say it's all money. People try to say it's some money and shit, but then poor motherfuckers, like in this country, poor women be having babies and shit. Poor women be having babies. You know. And then you still got some middle class couples and stuff having babies. I'm just leaving the gym, man. Nothing but kids in there. People be coming, bringing their kids in. Bring their kids in first and then work out, then pick their kids out of daycare. Shoot, there was a whole bunch of kids in the big gym area today. Shit. They're around, at least in this area. This might be a bubble, but, you know, people can say money or something, but then women are just with the men they want to be with. And these women, they ain't reproducing some motherfuckers. They just nature-wise just ain't gonna reproduce some motherfuckers. That's all too. Everybody talking about all this other shit, but the women ain't fucking who they want to fuck, but they only want to fuck certain men. It's just that simple. They still want to fuck. They still want to get down. But they don't have to settle for men like they used to. Even the men they settle for got to have something. That's how it is. He gotta have something. He gotta look like he can make a good child or something. Because otherwise, what these women got, they got what? Last count was like 32 forms of birth control. 32 forms of birth control. And even if you talk about this whole, like, there's a lot of people who talked about this abortion thing. Like, oh yeah, well, some people putting it on religion and shit. It's funny they ain't put it on religion like back in the 70s when it was mostly black women who were having abortions. Oh, Rom can go political. All of a sudden, you get a shortage of, you're starting to have the white populations like starting to dwindle. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, abortion's a bad thing. Let's stop it. Yeah, but hey, even after that, you stop it. I guarantee it. Nobody's talking about this, but you heard it from me first. If these women, I guarantee that if they in a place where they limiting abortion, the women just gonna close up shop. The women just gonna close up shop and shit. If they don't want to have a baby, they don't. That's why I've said this before on a car video someplace. Said this publicly, so a few other people have said it publicly. If a woman have a baby, like she get pregnant with a man's child, she wanted that child, ain't no more accidents. Fuck all that shit. We got 32 forms of birth control, and right now Plan B is still legal. One way or the other, women, they don't have to have a man's child. So that's another factor as well. Even when some women having sex, they still picking who they want. They ain't dropping some baby. They bringing all this other shit. Because trust me, if a woman want to have your baby, and regardless, she will. And it's regardless of what her social class is or not. Like I said, I've known a few women, they were six-figure earners like, a decade ago. Back when six figures still meant something. Like low six figures or high five figures. Having babies. I knew this one woman, I ain't gonna call her name. She got this guy, she had a daughter with this guy. And she had no intentions of marrying him. He was just a sperm donor. And you got a lot of women who do that. Now they want to have it. No, trust me, if women, I say the majority of women, if they want to have babies. Now, for the ones who going through some fertility issues, okay, I feel bad for them. I feel bad for them. But even then, if they really want that child, they'll do what they got to do. Because I knew a young lady, she was having fertility issues, but she fought hard to get her little baby girl. She fought hard. But see, the real issue is women don't want to have babies with many of these men. They don't want to fuck many of these men to even get to that point. That's the real issue. Ain't all this other shit. They putting all this other shit. Nobody want to just say that. Or they try to you get some of these platforms, YouTube platforms, where the guys will say that and say, hey, all these women fucking them. People want to ignore them, but I'm like, you got to make the correlation. If 63% of men under the age of 30 ain't having sex, they obviously not going to produce a child. Common sense. You can't get past that part. Obviously, they're not going to have a child, and if they're not having sex. And then then you got another group, they might have sex with the woman, but the woman make sure she got all her shit lined up. She got the Plan B by the table. She making you wear a condom. She might have a shield or something. She'll have something. She'll make sure. And if she in a state where they restrict abortion, she probably got a cousin in a state that has it. Trust me. Nah, if a woman don't want to have a baby out here, they don't. Nah, it's a low fertility rate, really, because these women don't want to fuck a lot of these dudes. It's just that fucking simple. And people need to talk about that. They say what's wrong. Well, shit. It's obvious. They just not attracted to the men. Because I'm gonna tell you something now. One thing I found with women, they gotta want to look at a replication of your ass. Like don't sleep on what the black pillars are saying and shit. I always say they got some points. they got some points. You know, all this time I've been here, I didn't realize what that was. Anyway, I got some more to say about all of that. I just, right now, I gotta go get my clothes out the cleaners and shit, man. You know how I do. Gotta go get my clothes out the cleaners. I'll talk to y'all some more about this shit, man. Cause it's some real shit, man. Nobody wanna talk about it. That's the major issue. Nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody wanna talk about all this other shit, but women just don't wanna fuck some of these dudes. How they gonna have babies with them? They can have babies if they want. Fuck all the bullshit. Fuck all the bullshit. They know it. Hold on. I'll talk to y'all. Wait, I'll be back in a sec. Alright, y'all, back. It's like only like less than a second for y'all, but I was in there, you know, chopping it up with the lady who, you know, one of the owners of the dry cleaning place. She know she ain't seen me in a while. Didn't know I had a stroke, so you know we had a conversation. And you know it's still funny. Just real quick, if I walk slow, I'll waddle. If I walk like Denzel, I'm okay. It's the weirdest thing. Oh, and when you talk about babies, like I said, if a woman want to have a baby, she can. Like just in this little parking lot, 2 different women with babies, one black, one white, with babies. Like that whole thing ain't been an issue around in this part. I ain't sure about the other parts. You know, I mean, shit about whole countries and shit not having a baby born. Nah, if a baby ain't been born, trying to put that shit on not making enough money. Because somebody making money, they can afford daycare. So what's up with that? They can afford daycare. Or I remember when I used to live in Edgewood, Maryland, right next door to me was this woman. She in her house, she had turned her place into a daycare. You know, so people in the neighborhood, they had a child, they just take them up there. Cause trust me, they could do it. Everybody looking at that shit. When we're back before there was a fertility issue, people, it was more than just women staying home and shit. Yeah, you had some women staying home, but you know, if you look at some place like the black community, we ain't had that. But we just had Big Mama take care of the kids or something. Shit. While we at work. We found a way. Hell, like I said, when I was probably had my 2 sons, they came out when we at the poorest. But we had support. People can create support networks and everything with their family and shit, extended family. Shit, that's one thing. People talking about some nuclear family and shit. You getting, get Pop and Nana in there and shit. And I've seen that around here. Be like Pop walking around with their kids. You know, it's funny. This one time I saw this dude. He had Confederate flags on his white man had Confederate flags on his truck, right? Like stamps and shit. And I remember he pulled into this parking lot over by the mall. He got out, had a little brown girl, and you could tell that little brown girl had Pop-Up wrapped around her finger. Now, if somebody want to have a baby, they going to have a baby. But that's the issue with this whole, it ain't the fertility thing or even the money thing. People will throw that out and, you know, have some argument, but the women just don't want a lot of these men. Let's just be real with that shit. And that's always been the case. Shit. They don't want them. So they either not having sex with them, or if they do have sex, they make sure all their birth controls are on point. Shit, how many women out here taking birth control knowingly, and still making them off taking birth control? Might have a shield up in there, got Plan B ready, and making sure he wearing a condom. And then with all of that, they're only going to have sex with most of them only going to have sex only with a man they will consider having a baby with. That's a very prominent thing. But shit, everybody talking all this other stuff instead of what need to be talked about. Need to be talked about like why they need to figure out why these women have shut down being penetrated by all these men. And now you can't just blame it on everybody trying to say everything else and everything. How come they don't want them? Because even with the money shit, they still fucking. They still fucking and shit no matter what. But how come they ain't fucking somebody have a child? You know? I mean, talking about all this other stuff, there's a lot of women just don't want to have children for whatever reason. And the thing is, it's always been that way, really. You're talking only 60% of women, that's one number. It varies by race, have children. So how they still having children? Or not having children? That's what they need to be looking at in Western and like European and Asian countries. How come they ain't having kids? Somebody else said they having problems in South America. Don't know, ain't really check into it. But sub-Saharan Africa. I've said that several times. Somebody probably pick up on what I'm trying to say. They ain't not complaining. I don't see how they could complain though, man. You see those fat booty, got the motherland ass, round ass and shit. Ain't no way. Shit. Ain't no way. Got that motherland booty and shit. One of the women I follow on IG got that motherland ass. I was like, God damn. Big old thighs and shit. Remember I was in the store a few months ago, standing behind this woman. She was obviously African. I was like, shit. A motherfucker be wanting to give her 5 kids and shit. But shit, yeah, a lot of these women, they just don't want to fuck. They don't want to fuck certain men. And if they don't get that certain man, they'd rather be by themselves or get their toys out, some shit like that. They still want to fuck. But they ain't dropping some babies. They ain't always some biological thing with them. They just don't want the men. I'm just going to emphasize that shit. I don't know why. Well, you know what? I know why people don't want to talk about it. Because I'm going to tell you something with the news and everything. People don't want to actually talk about real solutions or what's really going on. And that's for anything, not just fertility. They don't want to break down something, the obvious. I noticed that. They don't want to say the obvious. You got to get some motherfucker on social media who say it, and then a lot of motherfuckers challenge them. But I'm going to say the obvious and shit. They just don't. I'm going to say it over and over. These women, they got any place they got low fertility, the women really don't want the men. They don't want to fuck the men. Because you look at some place like Japan, they got those herbivore men and shit. And then China, that disastrous one child policy. Good Lord. They had that policy, then all of a sudden they had too many men, not enough women. I'm like, oh damn. These motherfuckers. Seriously, that's all it is. Look at it yourself. Don't take my word for it. Just think about it. Look at it yourself. Ask yourself, what happens if these men ain't fucking? You get all these men who call themselves incels, obviously they ain't getting no pussy. If they ain't getting no pussy, then they don't even have a chance to impregnate women. In fact, I'm going to tell you what, the solution really, maybe they need to talk to men who getting a lot of babies and what they doing. Maybe they need to learn some real game. Now, I'm serious on that shit. Because the time of money just getting, a woman just getting some play just off of money, you know, that ain't happening no more. You know, a man going up talking about, well, I take care of you, all that. She like, well, shit, she got her degree and shit. Women don't really need it unless they just want to use your money. Let's put it like this. Most women who look for money in a man just want to use them. They got their own shit. They usually working in some shit unless they very poor. And let's be real, a lot of them ain't very poor. They just want to save up their money, you know. They want to be modern women otherwise, you know, when it comes to like what they do for a living and all of that. But we want to be traditional. They just saving their money. They got money. And they'll use a man's money. But shit, they ain't stuck. In fact, I know one woman, I ain't gonna call her name. Real good friend. I don't think she's gonna be watching this. I ain't gonna call her name, but I know her husband making a lot of money. She got a stash. She said, well, I said, what you got a stash for? She said, in case she got roll up. Shit. She got a lot. I started hitting her for a loan one time. I ain't gonna lie. She probably would have gave it to me too, man. That was cool. But her husband don't even know she got it. I say, you know, you got that money now. Women, shit. Yeah, women don't need a man's money anymore unless they just don't want to spend theirs. And even then, they don't want to shit. Even beyond that, a lot of times they might just have one baby with them. At that, a lot of people just don't want to have babies. Trust me, these women could pop out. What's up, y'all? I gotta make this one a little quick, man. I had to stop again, but the phone cut off. It said it was too hot. I was like, what? So I gotta make this one quick, man. Just ending up what I said, man. But just ultimately, right? Ultimately, you know, these women, they can have a baby if they want. These women can have a baby if they want. And you get a lot of women who trying. You know, and you got some women popping out babies like crazy. But with the real issue, they don't want to have certain men's babies. That's all it is. That's all it is. Because if you got a whole bunch of men who are single and they need to figure that shit out, who's single, lonely, and sexless, obviously they ain't making babies. So that's the real issue. That's the elephant in the room. Nobody want to talk about that. These women being picky as shit. These women being picky. You know? Now people get different, you get different voices on what it is. A lot of people say, nah, they just want Chad. Well, whatever they want what they want. They don't want some of these guys. That's all it is. That's all it's always been. These women, any woman who want a baby, knows she can get one. Knows she can get one. You know? Most of them, the ones who can, just got a legitimate fertility thing. Yeah, I feel bad for them. But think about a lot of these women who can. And they just don't want to. They closing up shop. They closing up shop unless a guy's a certain thing. So that's the thing that's got to be talked about. That's the thing. So anyway, right? I don't want to stay on here too long and shit might get hot again. That's the first time. But then I used to be doing the videos a little bit earlier. Car videos. I don't know. But yeah, elephant in the room. Women just don't want to have babies with a lot of these guys. You know? They can if they want. They can if they want. And there's enough of people try to talk about some system. There's enough of a system. Shit. Anytime I'm coming back from the gym, he got nothing but a bunch of kids in there. Women come in there with their kids, work out, then go get them out of daycare. Shit. And you got a lot of places got daycare, a lot of gyms and everything. And shoot, got a big old daycare center. And people talk about they can't afford it, but all these poor motherfuckers are having babies. All these poor women are finding a way to have babies, multiple babies, and still finding a way. So they just don't want the men. So anyway, y'all, that's it before this shit heat up again. Right? Before this shit heat up again. That's all I gotta say, alright? Wait a minute, let me at least park before I stop. And if this thing stop again, y'all know it heated up again, alright? Oh man, I gotta keep, maybe I might have to blast the air conditioner when I'm driving, nigga, when it's hot. Cause it's weather and shit, man. But yeah, just remember that. They just don't want, shit, nothing, get nothing else from this. These women just don't want these dudes' babies, these dudes' children, alright? That's the real issue. Whether you're talking about Japan, whether you're talking about South Korea, whether you're talking about Italy, wherever. People need to ask them. People need to ask that question or really look at that. These women, if they wanted these men's babies, they would have them. You gotta ask yourself, how come they don't want these men's babies? And fuck all that bullshit about their, they doing whatever career or something. I've met some career women, high post women and shit. They still pop out a baby or two. And they had the money, put them in like the best daycare. So if these women want babies, they could have them, all right? But they don't have the men they want to have them with. And that's going to be controversial. Hey, bring it on. Seriously, bring it on. Share this video. I want people to be talking about me. Because if people serious about that, they need to ask themselves those questions. How come these women don't want to fuck certain these men? Oh, it's going to get worse too, especially with that abortion thing in this country. A lot of women going to close up shop. Watch it. So, anyway, let me go get what I got to get, and I'll get back with y'all later. Peace and blessings.